Hi, I'm Alexander Richter, and I will talk about open source pipeline and why Plex is a start. So before that, I want to introduce myself for people maybe who didn't get the talk before. Before coming to the Animation Institute, I was studying media computer science and did my bachelor at the Animationsfabrik in Hamburg with the movie Seventh Dwarf and Kinohasen. They are doing like lighting and pipeline work. After that, I applied for Animation Institute, and now I'm technical director here for Breaking Point, Animan, Droolpool, Los Mariachis, and Bound What You Need were the projects I was working on. Last year I was an intern at Framestore for mainly look development, but I also do some grooming there and a little bit pipeline inside. And I'm also currently as a lead software developer and pipeliner at Studio Zoe for projects like The Amazing World of Gumball, maybe someone you know this one, or Petsy. And this year we had the luck, like 3 other people and I, we were awarded with the VAS award for outstanding visual effects in a student project for Breaking Point, and especially for the pipeline which I worked on in Breaking Point. And I just want to quick view what this pipeline looked for Breaking Point. So this one is, for example, it's just Maya now, and it's the typical things you already expect in the pipeline. You have your menus, you have your shelves, you have your loading and savings, creating folders, and yeah, the things which you have there. So this one was a little bit different because we tried with p-tags and things like that. Yes. So just that I know the demographics here. Who's currently working on some animation VFX games project? Could you maybe raise that just so that I know? Okay, cool. And who would say this project has some kind of script pipeline or some kind of scripts which help you to develop your project? Okay. So why open source? I mean, most of you maybe know, but I will give you my opinion on that. Why open source anyway? It's about sharing technology and understanding. And it's about less reinventing. And the best cases for what I come up always is OpenSubdiv by Pixar and Alembic by Sony Picture Imageworks, which helps a lot in sharing between software packages and between companies also. You can focus on the project and not on the problem because it's someone else solved it for you. And you can advance through combined effort. So it's not just 2 pipeline TDs or 2 developer at your company. It's everyone who's interested in this technology who try to get it better. So my personal motivation is, beside that, is share a better understanding of how and why. Because when I started to do pipelining, I couldn't find that much of knowledge about that, how to do, how to organize a project technical wise. What's the bottlenecks and whatever. So I just looked up what the other TDs do, looked up how was it Framestore, how was it at the Filmakademie, and try to get my own knowledge. I wanted to build for everyone because mostly pipelines build for companies, and they're so very strict on folder structures or some specific modifications you or just have there. And for me, it was also maybe a self thing. Let's say make a Magnus Opus. So I just did for more than 4 years. I just did pipelining, and I want to sum it up and get something which I think is much better. So the thing I came up with is I call it Plex. It's mainly for this free software packages, but you can do whatever you want. But this is the focus because all 3 provide Python and PySide integrations. So what I mean when I talk about pipeline, I mean mostly this kind of pyramid of structure. So you always have, if you do pipelining work, you always have your folder structure, your naming conventions, your software pipeline, and your script pipeline. And you can come by totally fine if you just take the first 3. The script pipeline is just like the cake on the top, but it's not absolutely necessary to do your project. It just helps you to do it faster. But you need, for communication, you need to have like a project structure. You need to know where things are and things like that. So it's quite like very important to know like where your shots are and where your assets are and things like that. The other important thing is the naming convention. Like, what do you have? For example, I use always this kind of split, which a lot of people use, like work and publish files, which have different naming conventions, and there are rules how to name things. So other scripts find it, for example, or other people know what to expect. And the same things apply for a software pipeline. So you always need to, before you start a project, you always need to think like how I want to structure it, which software do I want to use, which version of the software do I want to use, and how I interconnect between the different tasks. So for example, if you start modeling, so what's the data format you expect at rigging, and what's the data format you expect at rendering? So these are the parts you need do and check out before you do anything. So, and the idea is I provide you with this information as much as I can, provide you with this images and things like that, and you take them and adapt them for yourself or whatever, and just to have like a basic start for your own project, and not maybe you're like, what do I need for my project? And then you look it up and say, okay, I need a software pipeline. What's important there? That I know which version of Maya, for example, I use, which version of a plugin I use, and things like that. So that's the one part. And the second part is the scripting pipeline, which where the main feature is the layered pipeline-wise. So the layered pipeline is about multiple like layers of script. So for example, you have some kind of master pipeline script where the main scripts and the main images for your pipeline are lying. And if you start a project, you can override specific needs. For example, you say, okay, I want to have a different save script because in my new project it's a little bit different than in most others. So you can just take the script, put it in the same folder, and then it will override the script of the master file. The same thing is if you want to do debugging or development. You just took it locally, and you will use the master and the project script, and you can override or add which you want to debug or develop. So, and the same thing applies for the user. So every of the steps is user overwritable. So if the user says, I want to do I need a different resolution for whatever, or a different FPS or whatever, for whatever reasons, he can. So this is how it looks like. So you have like this master system, and maybe you start a project one and project 2. And then on project 1 you say, okay, I will add some Python and some Mel scripts for this project. So you will override this scripts like sticking to the master file. And then you will think, okay, I want to change some Python scripts and go to local 1 and say like, okay, I try something out, and if it's good, I put it in the project. And if it's really good, you put it in the master file back in, so everyone can have it. And the same thing applies for the project 2. So the main thing for software, you need to set up environment variables. These are very important because on one side they make it easier to import other scripts. If you want to have like just import this one, if you add it to the environment variable, it will just import whatever. The same applies for project paths. If you want to know where are the shots, and you write a script for shot saving or something like that. So there's, for example, an environment variable or context class for that, should be so at least. And you can easily add plugins. So everyone has the same plugins and uses the same system. And if he starts in your environment, a software like Maya, he will have the same plugins as everyone else. The same thing applies for menus. And also you can go further and go into settings. For example, if you start Nuke and then you have already the right resolution, the right FPS, and you can ask even who's the user, what's context. And the same for gizmos or shelves. You can share them in one folder and you can override them for others, so others have the same value from all of this. A basic idea is to have as much common as possible, not to divide your scripts into thousands of different and like everyone has a different approach, everyone program different, or everyone uses it different. I think it's important to have some kind of consistent, and this is where this utils come in. So you have this, I would say, like at the moment, this UI, and with variables and functions. And this provides you with a constant UI, so it's constant, independent from software and operational system. So if you start it, you always know what to expect, and it's not like where you start Maya, you have a little bit different windows, and Nuke have a little bit different windows or whatever, and yeah, it's some kind of UI through them all, you can say. And the same thing is for variables and functions. So you can apply specific functions which you want to have for every of your scripts, and they just parent it and then they use it. For example, one of the things I really like to have in every script is a help button. I think every script should have a help button, so if someone doesn't know how to use it, you push this button and the web browser is opening and give you like the help for this script specifically. Or reports, or specific user, open folder, open current folder. This is what's a lot of times you need, like you do a play blast, you do a save, and oh, I want to open the folder, and there's an open folder button instantly, always, in every script. Have comments. So, and the possibility is you can parent it for your own script, and you can decide, will I just use some additional function, and or will I just also use the UI and implement that? That's on your part, and you can like customize this core utils and then use it for every script and have it same way for everything. The same thing is like because it's layered based, you need some kind of data, and this will handled by libdata, where you have some specific information in configuration files, like project, where you save your resolution, the FPS, paths, user, where you can save per user specific informations, and also you can override everything. Like if you say, if the user says, okay, I need a specific, for this user, I need a specific path for the project, you can just take the project config and throw it into the user folder, and then we'll override it. And it's on you if you allow this or not. But sometimes you have this kind of situation for a short period of time or for specific persons where you want to have different settings for them specifically. The same thing is for scripts. So a lot of, as much as possible, you should, and I try to do settings and styles in this configuration file, so you can just throw in and reuse them as much as possible and change them per project, not needing to overwrite the whole script. Just change the configuration file in your project. The same thing for software. For example, because I don't want that people always override menu or init or user setup or whatever, I provide like a configuration file where you throw in how your menu should look like, what it should do if you push the first like save or whatever, and the same for environment. So you put all the information as much as possible there, and I provide some variables like I don't know how it's called, Ausrufezeichen environment, for replacing data variables with operation environment. So it can have, for example, some kind of environment like software path, and if you use this kind of variables in your configuration file, it will be replaced by your environment file. So if you have somewhere software path defined, it will replace it in the configuration file, which is total normal. They have most pipelines, but still is, as I said, I will apply the status quo. I don't want to like do innovation here. I just want to share what's there. And one thing is like logging. It's a two-sided street. You can, on one side you log for the user, so the user get all the information you want him to know. So something happened, he knows it, so he sees in a simple console feedback, he sees what's there, what's happened or what not, or like I saved, and then there also in the console there's the path where he saved, so he can look it up if you want, and it makes it much more transparent what's happening. On the other side, you have the same thing for the developer. So you can you have a different logging for the developer. You use the same snippet of code, but the developer will get more information, where he gets more like when was it happening, and maybe the trace back. So like the error message, also give it to that. And this will saved by user based. So every user will always running a log where he will save it, and if something happened, an error or something, he can say I had an error, something broke, and then the developer can look into the user login and see, oh, there's this and that. To round up this thing, because as I said, it's not about just scripts, and that's not the whole thing. It's about like the whole process, and as I said, the first three parts of file structure, software pipeline, and naming are the most important one, because this is fundamental. I try to have like as clear and like advanced documentation as I can to explain and to provide you with all this information and all this like slides. So you can look it up before your project and say, okay, I need this, I need to do this, or I need to do it differently, but at least you know how it can do it. And the same thing you can, and same thing as, because this is a pipeline, I had some specific rules why and what I did, so principles which I apply and which maybe you should adapt or not. So, and also like what data I have normally and what variables. A scripts idea and functions, and also of course contribution. And one of the last things, more of a personal note, UI design. Cancel the cancel button. I see a lot of, and I go through shotgun scripts and throw away every cancel button I can see, because this is completely unnecessary. You cancel, in a professional environment, you cancel progress. If something's running, you cancel that. But a script, you don't cancel a script. You have there at the top the X button, and you have most of the time the escape. But then you have, if you have also a cancel button, you have 3 buttons to kill the script. So it's not much, but on the other one side, it's cleaner UI and less code, even as a small less code. But why not? So, what's our limitation of especially the script pipeline? I don't allow a parallel multi-operation system. I try to do, like at the moment Windows is on, but I try to get to all operation system, but I don't see the benefits in having Windows and Linux running at the same time, like for example Shotgun does. You can, in Shotgun you can provide a path for Windows, and if you start the script or this Maya in Linux, you can start it there. I think that's 90% of the cases not the case, or more. So if you use Linux, you will definitely use probably Adobe products, which are mostly for Windows or Mac, but they're not as important for the whole pipeline structure. So I think they're redundant in a way. And the thing is, I do this because the code is less. I don't need to get all this overhead of testing which separation system, which paths, whatever, and it's much more. You have better overview of the whole system. So if you do start, for example, for Linux, when I'm developed it, you just change all the things you want to change or need to change, and then it will run for Linux. And if you want to change it, start for Windows, the code should be as far as possible adapt to everyone. But like especially the paths and things like that, I don't see that benefit. The other one is script versioning. A lot of pipelines have this kind of configuration file where you have can apply different versions on every script. You can say like, oh, this save script I would use 2.0.1. and then it goes through the paths and searches for this one. I also don't see a benefit in this, because also I need like to do configuration files, scripts. I just use Git. If I want to change a version because it's broken, I just roll back on this specific script. And if I need users to do that, someone of you or someone, I can write a GUI for that, and then they just say, okay, this script, please version back, come on. So yeah. I don't remember what current level configs were. We'll just jump about that. Maybe I remember later. So the other limitation is for small and mid-sized project. I'm not even counting from that. It's for me. It's like to have the people who don't want to work or don't have the money or whatever to work with shotgun or big system, and want to try something that like of this size. And so this is one of the things I was like, okay, I don't think that will handle like 500 people or something like that. You need to change a lot of things to make it possible. So it's more of a smaller, robust thing, I would say. And it's Python based. So at the moment, because Python is like in a lot of professional environment, VFX and animation, I use this because it's an easy language. And if you use just Python, you can go very far and don't need like in web jump from around like Python here, C++ there, JavaScript there, and something like that. So, oh yeah, no. Current level of configurations. You always your data is always because as I said, like the scripts are layered, but your data isn't. So if you have some kind of resolution in your project, it will stay in your project. It will, or if you kick it out, it won't there. So if you don't have a configuration file for your project, it's a break, because it will don't go to the master file and search for other configuration files and like, oh, I don't find my configuration file in project, I will search there. No, what will happen if you use data structure in a layered base will happen. You will not understand your pipeline, because maybe you forgot to copy your software configuration file to your new project, and then it will go down and search it in the master file, and then you will, why Maya 2012 is starting? I don't understand. And then you will search and circle around. So the data is the only part which is always which you need to copy for every project, because it's fixed on that. The reason is it makes it more transparent, and yeah, you will understand your pipeline better. So I'm crazy in development. As I said, I use the core of the IR pipeline and break it. So there's nothing there from that. So at the moment, I just try to rebuild all the scripts to the new engine of the pipeline. So it's more of a core base than of a script base. So like the cool applications where you have. So there's a lot of things to do at the moment. So it's yeah. I just use Windows, support Windows at the moment, but Linux and Mac would be cool. See that? I want to change to Python 3.4, which is a little bit harder with the current software market, because they still use the older one. But it has much more benefits. It's faster. It's better to program with. We'll see how this goes. I'm still developing the classes, so I want to have, if you start your Maya or start your Nuke, or so start whatever you want, that software knows what's up. It should know which user you are with all the data you need, or should know which context you have. The other two things are like one small thing, one-click solution. Or maybe you can provide the idea, or maybe you can do it for your own. If you, for example, have a save script and you press it, then most of the time a pop-up will show up, and you will change something and press accept. Like imagine if you just press it with control, and it will automatically use the default state, so you don't have any pops-up, you don't have just saves in whatever you applied beforehand as default. So it will it's a very small change, but it your animator or whatever will love you for that. If you just control save and it's like poof, next version, or poof, published or whatever. So it's, yeah. And the other thing, which could be the core of the application on my pipeline, is the smart loader. Imagine you can load everything everywhere. So if you're in your Windows and you push, like, for example, two times Shift, then like some kind of like menu pops up, like in Nuke or in Houdini, where you know that's like where you can type something in, and you write down Maya and press enter, and it opens Maya or Nuke or whatever. And the same thing you can do for shots or assets or scripts. So if you say you type in shot 120, and it will open 120 in maybe in Maya environment, or you're in Maya environment and you just tap 2 times Shift and then like save, and then it will save, and you don't have this whole putting menus on, going through shelves, and just one line of how you developed it or how I would develop it. That's up for like your imagination, how it makes very intuitive, for example, yeah. But I think this could be like a very core system of every pipeline, to have a very easy application to start everything. Okay. So as I said, it's hardly in development. You check it out. I'm searching for contributors and users. It's not just code. Code would be great, but it's also like documentation. If you have ideas for my ideas, you can give me your feedback, and you can find it on GitHub. I will come to that later. And I want to thank the Breaking Point team, which allowed me to do the original like pipelining. The Animation Institute, which allowed me to do it there. The R&D department, which also gave me the chance to talk here. And Martin Minzel and Vincent Ullmann and Karl Schütter, who gave me like advice, or who I looked up, how they did it. So if you want to check it out, go on GitHub. It's Richter Alexander Plex. And contact me, write me if you have ideas, if you have code ideas, whatever. Give me feedback, and hopefully your pipeline is better than mine, maybe. Thank you very much.